So Bunny Girl Senpai is really, really good. I'll probably make a proper video on it once it finishes, but for now, I just keep seeing it as this wonderful vehicle to let out what I'm thinking. The Futaba arc just happened, and for those not caught up with the show, it, although quick, covered a lot of really resonant stuff that has connected with not only who I am now, but also who I've been in the past. Futaba set up this expectation of a person she refuses to pursue, but feels the need to continue seeking and feeling inadequate to that person. She has a very small but valid emotional reason for sticking out, a small, kind gesture, one he probably didn't even think twice about, which is part of the reason that she clings to him. The thing I want to focus on is her private, what I think is basically an Instagram account, where she posts more lewd pictures of herself for attention. I think this is something a lot of people can relate to, whether or not they did exactly what she is doing, a replacement of valid attention for superficial one. To feel better about yourself, not for the parts you like, but for the parts that people mistake for you. When I was 16 or 17, I would go on some of those rating apps, match and message with people. When you're in high school and insecure about yourself, it's a real boost. Suddenly, random people are paying you compliments, wanting to meet you, talking to you late at night, but it's all for the looks. You try to establish something else, but they're always super different personality-wise and in interest, so it always just comes down to the reason you guys were both on the apps in the first place. The loneliness people face is more than one for romance. It's a basic general insecurity and want to belong. Not to fit in per se, but just to feel like there is a reason or purpose you fill by existing. Neo-Freudian and psychologist Alfred Adler stated that from birth we are all instilled with an inferiority complex and we work our whole lives to overcome it, to prove to ourselves what we can do, and then prove it to others. Because if you have nothing to say, nothing to contribute, nothing to do, what are you adding? Are you adding anything? I think that his theory makes a lot of sense, because it appeals to the insecurities that we seem to have. Because we see that all the time with people trying to better understand and form themselves, and Futaba is taking a route that is remarkably common these days. People seem to like my body, so I will show them my body. They like me, but they don't know me. These compliments aren't from who I want, but they are still compliments. But as she says in the bathtub, it all leads her feeling disgusting. Another thing I think is emphasized by her arc is the split. At one point she says, I should just disappear. The other Futaba does a better job than I do at being me. Not acknowledging the obvious irony I'm sure she was very aware of. She is the other her. They both are. We hold on to things and ideas and perceptions of ourselves, trying to constantly define and redefine and become the best us we can, but sometimes principles or hesitation seem to block out-of-character things we seem to think would make us happier. I know for me, I've described myself for a long time seeming to have a split mind that is constantly at conflict with itself. I feel like I have an identity crisis sometimes because my perception of myself flips in such a radical way that I wonder who I really am or what I've really been doing. In light of the different events that I identify with myself, I suddenly become a completely different character, it seems, but I'm not. I think what Futaba is going through is a first marking step in a lifelong process to cope with ego and the self. Going back to my previous example, I eventually came up to the feeling Futaba had. I deleted the apps, stopped messaging the people, cut connections, but I needed to find a new place to find value. For a while, it was in music. Then it was in school and my part-time job that I had. And then I had a string of different relationships that kept me out of that mindset really strongly. Then, they all ended. My last breakup left me feeling lost again. So, what more could I do but make song after song? But in the end, I was too shy to share my music. I didn't want to encroach on others, and no way of finding people to listen to it. So I started pouring my feelings into an anonymous YouTube channel. Here's really what I wanted to build up to and talk about. Something that most everyone goes through in different ways. The attention cycle. To prove to the world that you have worth. In my expression, I accomplish things. I join frats. You learn guitar. You learn to skate. Join choir. Build up your social media. I came from a small town nobody ever left, and I gained so much self-worth when I drove hours away across state lines to go to a college in the big city. I gained so much value playing shows, knowing I could make money from my music, and having an Instagram that I could feel well-liked in, but it always felt so hollow and shallow. Like the versions of me being presented weren't representative. My channel was never meant to be about anime. I wanted to just establish a connection with people who thought similar, or liked similar things as me, and anime seemed like a good medium as any. Most of my friends have never once had a conversation with me about anime. I almost never mention it. I was convinced that it was just one of many little things that I like. But I've had a sort of weird identity crisis lately. My channel is the most popular thing I've ever done, and that's a weird feeling. More people have watched my videos than I've probably ever met during the entire course of my life, possibly double of that, and ironically, the connection I wanted to have has now become too intimidating for me to properly keep up with the people who are trying to contact me. And so, I end up still feeling insecure and alone. All I wanted was to find people who I could finally connect with on an intimate level, one that wasn't hollow or superficial. Anyways, this has been on my mind for around a month now. It comes back to, despite your situation, I think there will always be times that you have self-doubt or feel lonely, and the main thing is not to forget who you are. You aren't an Instagram account. You aren't someone made to gawk out. You aren't what you do, but what you do can help you form the you want to be. There is no better Futaba. There is only one. Dealing with internal conflict is the only way people grow. I realize my thoughts may be a little bit disorganized, but I hope that there was something insightful that could benefit you in some way. A huge thank you to The Single Way Out, as well as all of my other patrons who keep this poor college boy running. And thanks so much for getting to the end of the video. Feel free to follow me on Twitter or join our Discord in the description. See you next week.